Quantic Media.
What's going on, everyone? This is Sarge, and what you're about to see is a brief interview with Cartel from rivaL Gaming. For those of you who aren't aware, Cartel is the leader for one of the best clans in the world. rivaL Gaming has won numerous leagues from TWL Season 1, 8 vs 8, to the XPL Season BC2 Championships, to the Big 8, which was the best teams around the world to face off. They were crowned as World Championships players, and so it's a privilege to get to speak to these guys because I'm not only a big fan of their work, but I'm afraid of them. These guys are monsters when it comes to Battlefield and competition, and so it's a great insight to see what they have to say about the anticipated upcoming Battlefield 3. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this short interview. I'll take it off. Take care. Yeah, definitely. And you've seen some of the footage that they've showed so far?
Yeah, pretty much everything they've put out I've had a look at. I've talked to a few guys that were at E3 and got their feel on how they felt it, how it played. A lot of guys says it does have a really similar feel to Bad Company 2. So on that note, I encourage a lot of my guys to stay in shape a little bit. Make sure you pub a couple hours, just kick the game around a little bit, just to keep. If the engine does feel similar, then you don't want to you don't want to lose any of your shape, right?
Yeah, true. And compared to Battlefield 2, are you excited that it has more Bad Company 2 aspects, or are you kind of bummed out about that?
No, I like the prone and stuff like that. I don't think it's really going to be that much of a problem. I know from 2142 they kind of fixed that, right? Like prone was not an issue in 2142 compared to the dolphin diving days of BF2. So yeah. I think they'll probably stick with what worked because they had absolutely no complaints about it in 2042. So they'll probably stick with that delayed, your delayed targeting type scenario, and yeah, it should be good. I think there'll be obviously the adjustments with the destructible environment being even more destructible.
Yeah,
but,
And you heard about how destructible environments can actually kill people if it lands on them too.
like falling on their heads and stuff.
Yeah, I can see people just going nuts over that, just trying to destroy everything they can.
Yeah, well, you'll see it a lot more in minor engagements, right? Like, say if someone you stick your head out and someone's got the drop on you, you can pull back behind cover and try to aim for something above their head, and hopefully, either just distract them with the dust because it seems like there's a lot more dust and cloud, or try actually kill them if you think they're under an overhang. So
yeah, true. Now, are there any things about Battlefield 3 that you are that you've heard that you're probably makes you cringe, or you're really not excited about, or not happy to hear about?
The squad leader part, I'm not sure about the squad leader part yet. I know all the games have always been had the squad leader be your squad leader, and I liked that about 2142 BF2, and they're kind of going back to that where you can only spawn on the squad leader, but we'd kind of gotten used to in the last game. We got used to just being able to spawn on someone in your squad, and that was kind of a skill of having the awareness of keeping that last guy alive was something we were good at. So that'll be a skill that we'll have to lose. We'll have to go back to having almost a dedicated squad leader. I found that in competition for BF2 and 2142, if you played the same team enough, you knew who their squad leader was. So you recognized him by name, and you would know to look for that guy, right? Yeah. And the cool thing about BC2 was you didn't know. You didn't, like, if they had a guy that was trying to stay alive to provide spawns, then you didn't know what guy it was. It wasn't always the same guy, or you weren't sure which guy was their guy that was just trying to keep the push alive type thing. So yeah. I actually prefer the spawn on anyone method. I think it increases the game flow a little bit more. There's a lot more crazy action, but I also don't like it when you're shooting at a guy and two guys fall out of his ass. So
yeah, it's true. So the spawns is something you're not really excited about. Or is there anything else that you've seen so far? How about recoil on weapons? Are you happy about that?
Well, I like the weapons. I think that they're going to be similar to BC2, so I'm not really concerned about that. I think that they've taken a step in the right direction of getting the LMG out of the medic's hands. Like, I think when they came out with BC2, they never intended to overpower the medics by doing that. I think their theory was the support gun was probably the weakest gun, so let's put that in the strongest class hands. But what they don't realize is not only did they make the LMGs a little bit too accurate, but that players, you put any gun in a guy's medic's hands, and they're going to get good with it. You give it to skilled players, and they're going to get good with it. So it's not going to be a problem. They should have made the LMGs, wildly inaccurate, and then it would have been it would have been better.
Yeah.
Right? The previous incarnations of support got really accurate for BC2, so hopefully in BF3 they adjust for that. I like the grenade launcher or medic kit. I think that'll be a good change.
Yeah, so. Indeed. Now, I know a lot of my viewers out there, they know somewhat of competitive gaming, but they're not really involved with it as well, so they don't know, like, you know, some of the other teams that are out there, and like just a brief description on like your team, rivaL. Like, where have you guys come from? Where did you start?
A lot of us actually started in the game Planet side, which was an MMO FPS a long time ago, probably 7-8 years ago. A lot of good players converged into one group there. Once that game died, we started with BF2, and we recruited a few guys who had played 1942 heavily. And we started playing 5v5 BF2, just looking for some kind of a competitive outlet for a game. At the time, we were known as serious gamers, and then when 2142 came out, it was our goal to be one of the top 8v8 teams. So we pushed really hard, practiced really hard for that, and we managed to crack into the upper circle, you know, like of the top 5, but never quite dominating.
I see. What were the teams that you were battling against that were giving you a hard time at the time?
The veteran teams. 2142 had like Hot, Paradigm Shift, 20ID, all of the Battlefield legends.
Yeah.
And we took a big step to differentiate ourselves from, you know, the multitude of average teams. We were definitely upper class, but those teams that were so stacked from the BF2 days that they were still, you know, up and down the roster, they were still stronger than us. So we stuck with that game for a while. Once those teams kind of dropped out of favor a little bit, 6v6 became the dominant play type. Then that's when we started to dominate. We were kind of the only upper class team left, and we kind of had our run of the game near the end of it. And that helped us build a good name coming into BC2. Right? My theory for recruiting has always been, when you're the top team, you can cherry pick talent from the teams one level below you. There's always superstar players on decent teams, and if you can pick up those players and make your full roster strong from top to bottom, then it makes you a much stronger team overall. So
that's awesome. That's really good. And what does it take to be a top team? Like, for all the teams that are out there that are watching, that are going to be watching this video and who are starting off and want some insight on, you know, what it takes to be a top team, what would you give as far as advice goes? Scrims.
You know, a lot of guys, they pub millions of hours and they have top scores on the leaderboards, but everybody in the competitive world knows that means nothing. You can play a million hours, but you never learn anything by just playing. You only learn from being defeated, right? And if you can, if you can evaluate your defeats and realize what your weaknesses are, and then train your weaknesses until you master them, that's when you take that next step into becoming a stronger and stronger team. The trick is to realize why you lost, right? Like, you can take the top 10 guys off the leaderboard and put them in against an average TWL team, and they'll get smoked. You know, it's because they don't realize the different play style, the awareness that you need to play a game like that. So it's not just shooting. You need to have an all-around game kind of thing. So if you're planning on becoming a competitive gaming, you know, that you definitely need to build your team around guys that can do that, guys that have good awareness, good shots, good communication. You know, they're thinking 2 steps ahead.
True. I know a problem for some teams as well is making sure that those players are also continuously playing, because some people, you know, they get involved for a very short time and then all of a sudden they disappear. So it's also not just having the skill, but also the commitment as well. Is there like something that you would like? Is there something that you guys do to make sure that your players are very committed to competitive gaming, or is that just it just happens?
Well, we're at the level now where we don't pick anybody up unless we already know them. You know,
I see.
Like they don't need to hand in a resume. We know who they are. We've played against them in other games, and that's our own safety valve to make sure we don't bring in any hackers or things like that. You know, like when you get a guy that you've never heard of and he's suddenly doming all of these guys that have played forever, there's something wrong. Yeah. You know, not very often does that type of player come around without some kind of a pedigree from either another game or another team or something. So the guys that we pick up at the level we're at now, we're willing to scrim every night that this is their sport, this is their hobby, this is what they want to do, right? For guys out there building a team from scratch, I would definitely say you have to look at how much do they play, right? You can almost flood your roster with multiple guys, and then cherry pick down to your 8 guys that are fully committed. So
I see. Nice. Right on. Right on. So, any other games that you guys are looking forward to other than Battlefield 3?
A lot of our guys, there's PlanetSide 2 is coming out, and a lot of our guys are interested to see how the sequel to that will go out, because a lot of them were diehard fans of the first one, myself included. So they've been paying attention to that. Obviously, BF3 is our main focus, and if they come out at the same time, then unfortunately PlanetSide 2 is probably going to fall by the wayside. But if there is some kind of staggering in their release dates, then they'll probably give PlanetSide 2 a shot. I know a lot of our guys are messing around with League of Legends right now just for fun.
Oh, right on.
But other than that, they're not playing too much.
Yeah, nice. I'm a huge League of Legends fan as well. Yeah. So sweet, dude. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. I think just that was covering everything. We kind of went over that pretty quick, but I think that's enough for my viewers to kind of soak in.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks a lot, dude. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, take care. You have a good one.
You too. See you later.
Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in onto this brief interview with Cartel from rivaL Gaming. For those of you who are interested in more information from rivaL, you can check out their web link that I'll provide here. I'd also like to thank EvilKit for setting up this interview and Quantic Media for giving us the recognition. My name is Sgt.Enigma. Thanks for watching.